All right, President Trump promising swing state Michigan auto workers and manufacturers that he's got their back.
To further protect Michigan auto workers, I will end the Biden-Harris electric vehicle mandate on day one. It's going to end on day one. And I will immediately terminate the Green New scam, and we're going to use that money to build roads and highways and bridges.
Here with what this would mean for Americans and their wallets, Sunday morning futures anchor and our friend Maria Bartiromo. Maria, great to see you.
Hey there, Pete. Great to see you.
Hey,
Good to see you in Milwaukee.
It was great to see you in person. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a nice little reunion there in Milwaukee.
Right.
You always do a great job. And so you saw the rally last night. The economic message was front and center, both from Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. And I feel like that plays pretty well in a place like Michigan.
Absolutely. Michigan at one point was really the home of auto manufacturing, and Detroit, of course, the father of making cars. So I think it resonated real well. And I think that people are remembering what the economy was like under President Trump. And he continues to reiterate his themes of extending the tax cuts as well as opening up the spigots of oil production, which can go a long way in terms of moving the economy forward. But the bottom line here is both Vance and Trump are talking about a growth plan. You don't really see a plan for growth out of this administration, and EVs is one obvious example. It's very expensive. They are also the components largely made in China, a lot of them. And so that message resonates real well. And I think when you're talking to people in high economic type regions like a Michigan, you're going to speak right to jobs. You're going to speak about that economic growth plan. So I think the most important issue about all of this, when you're talking about whether it's auto manufacturing or opening up the spigots of oil, is the fact that this team seems to have a growth plan. And that's really what we need right now with so many questions about an economy that is slowing, wages outpacing, wages underperforming, rather, and inflation outpacing wages, Pete.
Yeah. Government plans versus growth plans. We've seen how they, when put side by side, how they affect the economy. What do you have coming up on Sunday Morning Futures? We're
talking about all of that. We're also digging deep into this investigation that is underway about what went wrong at that last Saturday rally that President Trump had a bullet graze his ear. So we're talking about that this morning. Ron Johnson is going to be announcing his own bipartisan investigation into what went wrong. Ron Johnson has a team of investigators, and he has a preliminary report already. He's going to talk about those preliminary findings. I'll leave you with one thing that Ron Johnson is going to explain to us when he comes up live. After the shooter was shot by Secret Service and taken down, the local officers went up to that roof and started taking pictures of the dead body, of the shooter's body. So suddenly a guy in a gray suit walks up the ladder and goes up to the roof. And this guy in the gray suit, who didn't appear to have credentials, everybody assumed he was the Secret Service. So he tells one of the local law enforcement, send those pictures to this cell phone. And he gives him a number. And everybody assumed, well, that must be Secret Service. It turns out it wasn't Secret Service. So we're going to tell you exactly who that person was and what agency the local enforcement sent the pictures to. Ron Johnson has it all in his preliminary report, and it's pretty incredible. So we're digging deep into this investigation of that massive security failure that occurred when a shooter was able to get 7 shots out and, of course, grazing President Trump's ear and killing Corey Compertor, which we all pray for his family right now. So we're talking about that this morning. We will also talk with Eric Trump, of course, President Trump's son, about a very successful Republican National Convention and what comes next. We're also talking with Congressman Ronnie Jackson, Dr. Ronnie Jackson, doctor to 3 former presidents, Trump, Bush, Obama. And he examined President Trump. He put out a statement yesterday about what he found. We'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk with Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, because Virginia has suddenly become more than just a swing state. There's a lot of independents actually moving toward Trump. So we're going to talk about that as well and round it all up with Newt Gingrich after the RNC. We got a big show. We got some breaking news coming up in about 10 minutes, Pete.
That's right. I hadn't heard that angle on the rooftop. Look forward to hearing it. You can watch Maria's show in about 12 minutes. Thank you, Maria.
Thanks, Pete.
You got it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.